Hello and welcome to the AT Center at TCNJ. This webinar series is facilitated by the Inclusive 365 team and focuses on inclusive practices. The Inclusive 365 team specializes in helping organizations create more inclusive educational environments. They are known for the book Inclusive Learning 365, EdTech Strategies for Every Day of the Year, and provide services to organizations such as book studies, webinars, and consultation to help educators develop and implement inclusive strategies. The team consists of 4 professionals: Christopher Bugaj, Karen Janowski, Beth Poss, and Mike Marotta. Join them as they introduce practical strategies you can implement immediately in your environment to promote inclusive practices. This is Module 2, Cross-Content Strategies. These webinars are made possible through our partnership with the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education. The statements issued by guest presenters do not reflect the stance of the NJDOE OSC. Please use your professional judgment when implementing strategies and resources within your practice. Let's listen to the Inclusive 365 team.
Hello there. Welcome to one of our webinar series from the Inclusive Learning 365 team. We are going to talk today about cross-content strategies. You have 2 of us here, myself and Beth. Hello. Maybe you'll watch a different one. You'll see a different 2 of us. I don't know. Out of the 4 of us, you'll see 2 of us each time. We're not sure which 2 you'll see at any given time. It's part of the surprise, I suppose.
Right. Whoever decides to show up, basically.
Yeah, we'll just throw 2 people into a Zoom and off we go. As we go forward through this conversation about some strategies that you can look at using across your content areas, we would encourage you to take a second and scan the QR code on the slide here, because the slides themselves have resources embedded in them. So you're going to want to have those. It'll take you out links to tools, to resources that we're going to talk about, just so you have it. If we remember, if Beth reminds me, I'll come back to this slide at the very end so that you can get to the QR code again, so you don't have to pause the video or stop it and go all the way back. I'll save you that trouble as we go. So we are half of the Inclusive 365 team. I'm Mike Marotta. I am coming to you from New Jersey. I am an assistive tech specialist. I'm also the director of our state Assistive Technology Act program. So excited to be here.
I am Beth Poss. I am usually coming to you from either Maryland or possibly Alabama. I happen to be in Pennsylvania right now, but generally we're all up and down the East Coast. And I am a speech language pathologist. I work full-time for Lesson Picks, but I consider myself to be an inclusive education facilitator.
And since Karen and Chris aren't even here, we shouldn't even talk about now. It's Karen and Chris. Karen is in the Boston area. Chris is in the Virginia area, AT specialist as well. And like I said, you'll see us in another video. You'll see them in another video for sure. That's maybe a tease to keep you coming back to see what combination of the 2 of us you're going to get.
Exactly.
As we go through. You never know. We don't know until it pops up in our calendars. We're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm here today. What would a webinar be without a quick plug? The resources we're going to talk about today come from our 2 products that we've put together, our Inclusive Learning 365 book, which is Inclusive Learning 365 EdTech Strategies for Every Day of the Year. A little nugget of learning every day of the year to become more inclusive. Our brand new release connected to that is our Quick Wins card deck, which is called Tips to Activate Inclusive Learning, which is 40 strategies to get you going, looking at a more inclusive learning environment, and 10 reflective questions you can ask of yourself or others to improve your inclusive mindset as you go forward. So definitely check those 2 out. There's a couple links that will take you out to those resources. And some of the strategies all the strategies we're going to talk about today come from these 2 resources as we go forward. So you get a little taste of those as we go.
This is a 9-part series. We're on part 2. The first part was inclusive mindset. And while
as we record this part 2, right?
That's right, as we record this part 2. But what I was going to say is that while you could really mix around all of the different content areas and listen and watch whatever one or ones are most relevant to you at the moment, we would recommend that you check out the inclusive mindset recording first. Sort of like our book, we have one chapter at the very beginning that we say, read this first, and then the rest you can read or explore, or in this case, watch, depending on what meets your personal learning needs.
Kind of the beauty of the resources that we put together is that it's not a read from front to back scenario. It's kind of a choose your own adventure approach to things, right? It's just to find the thing that works for you. So as we said, today our focus is cross content. These are kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, maybe I would say these are kind of bigger picture strategies and conversations that the content area that you're teaching or exploring is not as critical with these strategies, because these are bigger picture, overarching concepts to ensure accessibility and inclusivity across the content area. So that's kind of the ones we'll talk about today. A quick reminder, and you'll see this reminder in front of all of the webinars, I believe. We will probably continue to drop this in as a reminder that, yes, we're going to show you some tools today. We're going to talk about some tools today. The tools are not as important here. Tools are fine. They're great. They're awesome. Understanding the strategy of why you're using certain tools becomes much more important, because the strategy will stay regardless of the tools that come and go. We have one of the strategies we'll talk about today is very heavy on AI tools and concepts, where if we had had this conversation 2 years ago, we wouldn't even have had AI tools in there. So the tools have changed, but the strategy of what we're trying to accomplish is a constant. And so we really rely heavily on this idea of strategy first. We lean into the strategy and then think about, well, what's out there that has the feature set to support that strategy for our learners.
And with that in mind, when we wrote our book and when we talk about these strategies, we really try to think of the action behind the strategy. And so we talk about things like, if we're talking about actions, right? It's things like putting and listening and crafting and moving and inviting and sharing and making and offering. We don't use the using. So we don't say using AI to create custom resources for learners. Instead, we talk about what's right. It's not about using AI. It's about ensuring that learners find resources relevant to them. So just think about that as we go through what we're talking about today, and as you implement strategies, resources, and tools in your own learning settings.
Always think about that idea that using's putting all the emphasis on the tool. The other words we're talking about are putting the emphasis on the learner and the strategy itself. And so I think that's really important. That's something we struggled with in the beginning as we were putting this together, because we wanted so quickly to be like, well, we're going to use this to do that. But instead, it's really thinking about, what is the task at hand? What are we trying to provide options for that individual to be successful? So start with the actions. All right, we'll dig into some strategies. We'll show some things. I know Beth's going to take over the screen at some point and take us off to see some exploration of some tools. So kind of move through them and see what we get. Remember, you're watching this as a recording. At any point, you could pause us and go off and explore too. And in fact, I would encourage you to do that. If something grabs you at that moment, pause us, open up another browser tab, and off you go. Go explore, because I think that's a really good way to approach this as you go forward. We don't normally give you a slide with this much text, and I'm certainly not going to read all this text to you. but the bigger concept here is when we're thinking about materials we're going to be using, um, are we reviewing those materials for accessibility? And here's some of the key questions you can ask as you go through. Um, you know, checking materials and reviewing them for accessibility is more than just, does this live online somewhere? You know, sometimes we will speak to individuals at schools and they'll say, well, we have an electronic textbook. Okay, that's a great start. Has anyone reviewed that textbook to see if it's accessible in the format it is, that it's electronic? I've worked in some schools where the textbook is electronic, but all it is a picture of those pages that's posted up on a website somewhere. And it's not very usable for anyone, to tell you the truth. And so thinking about what that is, and so we look at some of these key questions you could ask about this. Can the text be read with text to speech? So if there's text on the screen, do I have access to it? Is it accessible text that's able to be read aloud? Does that text or do those materials have flexibility for visual supports, enlargement, magnification, highlighting as it reads, changing of fonts, changing of line spacing, any of those things? Do I get those options there as I go forward? If there is embedded multimedia, does that multimedia have supports of captions? Are there transcripts so I can review it? So what other aspects of this are present that I can use? Or is there flexibility in this material that I could add some of those things if I have to? You know, we look at this as I always think about this idea as part of our kind of mindset of UDL in a way, where it's always like, let's get all of this at first and not worry, does someone need it at the end? Right? I've seen individuals kind of approach us and go, well, we're going to embed a bunch of videos, and if someone asks, we'll get captions at the end. Okay, but why not just do that at the beginning, and then no one has to ask. No one has to wait while you then retrofit something else, because we've asked the good questions up at the front. What do you think, Beth?
Yeah, and I was just even thinking of, as I'm watching the captions on Zoom as we're recording this, that I remember when I first started using Zoom, you had to decide to turn on the captions, right? Whether you're going to caption that video. And now Zoom automatically transcribes what is being recorded. It's the default now, and you can choose to not have captions show on your screen, but the default is there for everybody else that needs it. So as you're watching this, if you want captions, it's there. And Mike and I did not have to think about or make a decision to turn that transcription or that captioning on. It happened automatically. So it had that built-in accessibility where we didn't have to think of it. It was the default. And so as you review materials, as you design materials, think about making accessibility the default instead of just an option that somebody can turn on.
So true. And, you know, I think as people go through this, you know, maybe even you're sitting there watching this right now saying, well, this is great, but I don't decide what materials we use, or there's a committee that does that. Is the committee asking these questions? Maybe that's something you could pose to this committee, or to members of the committee. Like, you know, what do we do? We, the big we, what do we do with regards to accessibility? It may not even be part of the conversation. And this is an opportunity for you to kind of change the way they approach that. We have given you this link. Here's one of those first examples of maybe pausing us, scanning or clicking a link and going off. Here's a simple accessibility checklist that you can use to kind of think about your materials and the accessibility of those materials. Maybe this could be something that gets shared with a curriculum group, with the people that are looking at materials. And I like to remind educators that while some of these decisions are out of your hands, if you don't pick the textbook, so be it, someone else picks the textbook. There's other materials you use in your classroom that you get to choose. You might make them. You might choose them. They might be out there already. This is your opportunity to make sure that accessibility is thought of first and it's not a forgotten aspect of your learning materials. And then you could demonstrate the effectiveness of those tools and then show that to others, and kind of this idea of constantly keeping accessibility in the forefront as you go forward. So definitely check out that checklist. It'll give you some really good information about questions to ask, things to consider as you go forward with materials. And even more accessibility. You know, some of these pieces that we talk about of accessibility, some has to do with the materials. That was the last two slides where we talk about materials and what they have built in as accessibility. The other aspect of this is, what are you using within your technology that your learners have access to? And are you using the built-in accessibility? This, I could spend conservatively 3 days talking about just this one slide. If I had to, I won't. I will keep myself under wraps, but I could. This idea of using the things we have. You know, oftentimes Beth and I or anybody else will go into schools and people will say, well, we don't have money for new equipment. We don't have any money for new technology. Great, but everybody's got a Chromebook. Does your Chromebook have the accessibility features turned on? Do the students know what those features are? Do your educators know what those features are? Are they using them? Are they given ideas of how to use them? You know, never before have we been in a situation where the technology we use every day has such customization ability in it through accessibility features. Every device you have talks out loud to you. Every single one. I don't care what you have in front of you. It has text to speech. If there's text on the screen, it can read it out loud. Every device you have, you can turn on some kind of speech to text feature and talk to it, and it will do something, whether it answers your question or it puts that text on the screen. Those are just constants now. So are you using them? It doesn't matter what you have. Chromebooks, Apple products, Microsoft products, all of them have accessibility built in, and they are very, very good. And so if you haven't had a chance to play with them, I would say for sure, download the slides and take a jump off to some of these sites and look at these built-in features and think about how you could put this into an environment to enable and empower your learners to choose how they go through things, how they use their technology to support their learning. And they can do that individually. Each one can set up their own way, their own path to accessibility with these devices. Now, of course, go ahead. Yeah, what are you going to say?
We empower learners when we give them that ability
yeah.
to set up what features work best for them. And I just want to think about your own telephone, your own phone, right? You've probably set up the text size. You have probably set up whether your keyboard click-clacks or not. You have probably set up whether it goes to like a night mode or not. You've set up background color, all of those things, right? And actually, some of those things are things you find in the accessibility features of that tool, but you've set them up so that it works best for you. It meets your needs. My phone, I have enlarged text on it because my eyes are not quite what they used to be anymore. And we need to empower our learners to do the exact same thing.
The interesting part here is that the past couple slides were about the materials. This one's about the tech. These two things have to work in concert, though. You know, I have built-in technology accessibility features that will only really work if my materials are accessible also. It will work to that level that someone might need. So these two things have to happen hand in hand. And so it's a good conversation to start. This can be an incredibly powerful conversation for you to start at your school, at your organization. This will make lasting change as you think about how your learners move through every other aspect of their learning experience.
Okay, so I mentioned this before, the idea of customizing content or adapting content for all learners. I know every single one of us, and I don't care if you're a regular education teacher, if you're a general education teacher, not regular, we're all in regular ed. General education teacher special education teacher, speech language pathologist. Every single one of us has probably needed to customize a resource for a learner. And there are a lot of tools out there that make it easier and easier to be able to do that. And I'm going to highlight in this, while there's a lot of existing tools that you can do this as well, I'm going to highlight here how we can use generative AI, generative artificial intelligence, to adapt content for our learners. And so, Mike, I am going to grab screen sharing from you real quickly.
There you go.
All right, thank you. I'm going to grab the screen sharing from Mike real quickly, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And of course, I'm on the wrong set of screens when that happens, but that's okay. We'll get back over here. Here we go. So I'm actually going to go into a tool that I can use. We are going to talk about some tools, and it's how we utilize those tools to adapt, to get to that strategy, like adapting materials for learners. This particular tool is called DFID, is an artificial intelligence tool that was designed specifically for education. It is free. Many of the tools that we talk about in general have free versions and premium versions. And so just be aware that there are going to be features often of tools that you may have to pay for versus tools that it's completely free. This particular one, DFID, is so easy to use. It's one of the reasons that I like it. Here it says, student-ready resources for literally anything. You can also go specifically to books, text, PDF, and links, and put in vocabulary. But let's just say I am teaching Romeo and Juliet. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that in, common high school text. I could have it in English, but I could also do it in other languages, but we're going to keep it in English right now. And the reading level. Now, this is typically a high school text, probably 10th, 11th, 12th grade, but I know my reader is reading at a much lower level and their comprehension is probably at a lower level as well. So I want to reduce the complexity of this text. I'm adapting it for the learners that I'm working with. So I'm going to choose 4th grade. I'm going to set it as fictional text, and I want it generated as some slides. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit generate resources. I really love this because you don't have to get fancy into your prompts. Now, it says you're looking for resources for this book. I actually could have gone to books, but I just sort of wanted to show you that literally anything. So I'm just going to go to the prologue, and I'm going to confirm that book. And it's going to generate some resources for me. It's going to give it just a moment to do that. It's giving me some tips while it's doing that. And it's ready to go. Now, it's going to give me a whole host of different resources. A notice and wonder. It's going to give me reading resources. So it has modified this text, adapted it, right? I can then further adapt it by changing the reading length, modifying it, all of that. And I'm not going to take the time to go on and on with this, but you can see how really quickly it gave me a variety of resources that are now digital tools that are adaptable, that have that ability to, I can change, highlight, change the font, all of those things, and have that available for my learners. So just a really, DFID is not the only tool. There are many, many, many tools that can do this, but just one that I wanted to stop and show you really quickly how easy it is for us to now be able to customize and adapt resources based on the particular needs of our learners. And Mike, why don't I just keep screen control for a moment? Because I'm going to go out and show something else. I am going to have to forward through the slides real quickly because I wasn't keeping myself on. Okay, so again, there's lots of others out there. Another favorite of mine is Brisk Teaching AI. You want to make something, anything into a podcast, this is a tool that you can use for that. I think that's one of our strategies for another time to talk about also, but just one more thing to sort of show. You want to simplify or modify text, Magic School AI will do that as well. This is a screenshot from Magic School AI. So wonderful tools that are out there now to adapt that content. So speaking of customized content, when you are crafting instructional materials, because even if you are working from a really structured curriculum, chances are you are creating and crafting some materials for your classroom. And what the strategy that we're going to talk about is making sure that we are crafting those materials to reflect diversity, the diversity in our classrooms and the diversity in the world beyond us. And whether that is finding materials that already exist, one of my favorites is Unite for Literacy. This has thousands and thousands of picture books, digital picture books in multiple languages available. And the really cool thing about many of these picture books is that they are coming to us from diverse groups. So one of the groups that there's a Native American group that has produced some of these books. So we're seeing materials that are coming from within that. So some really, really nice resources from Unite for Literacy. There's a lot of other tools out there as well. Lesson Picks, which is the company that I work for, has diverse images that you can use so that the resources, the visual supports, the communication resources that you're making for your students look like the students that are there. There's lots of other image creation, image tools where you can find resources, and then image creation tools. And I'm actually going to take us out I'm going to hit my escape button for a moment. Hopefully it's going to work. I always love it when our technology is not going to work for us. It's okay. So we're just going to, all right, let's see if I can. All right, there we go. Just didn't hit the escape button hard enough, I guess. But I do want to take us out to an image creation tool, an AI tool, Adobe, from Adobe Firefly. And it lets you create all sorts of things, but I'm just going to really, really quickly craft an image that I might need for curriculum. I might need it for a social story, whatever it is. And I want a picture of a boy playing with blocks. And let's actually say it's a 6-year-old boy. 6-year-old boy. And I'm going to hit generate, and we're going to see what we come up with. All right, you see I've been playing with this before. All right, it's actually, hopefully this is what it's going to come up with. This is, or similar to this, this is the prompt that I had put in before as I was prepping for this, which I'm glad because we don't have to wait for it to generate all of that for us right now. One of the things I wanted to point out with Adobe Firefly is notice how it's giving me 4 options and those boys look different, right? I've got different skin tones, different nationalities or race, different ethnic backgrounds in there. And so I can choose to match the students in my classroom. I will tell you, not every generative AI tool is going to give you that diversity. And so an alternative or a way of even improving what you ask it for is to give it more information. If I wanted a child that looked like this, I'm going to put in like dark skin and curly hair in order to generate that. Here we go. This one, it actually did. I think it was learning from my previous prompts. So I had already asked for something more specific for a more darker tone skin student. So use the tools that are there to find resources that look like the students in your classroom. All right, let's go back to slideshow mode. And I guess I'll keep driving right now, Mike, until you need it back. Okay, so the next strategy is select mistake-tolerant instructional tools. It's a picture here of this little girl who seems very frustrated with her paper and pencil. Hey, a paper and pencil is not mistake tolerant, right? You can only erase so much before that paper looks really, really, really cruddy, right? It doesn't give you the ability to easily go back and fix something that you spelled wrong or that you want to change or information that you need to fix. And so think about the resources that you're giving students. Should we never give students pencil and paper? Of course not. But we want to give them options for materials and resources that are going to allow them to make mistakes and change things. It doesn't all have to be high tech either. A simple dry erase board is so much easier to fix something from than a paper and pencil even, right? I can go in and I can quickly change something. Now, it's harder for me to turn in resources with turn in a final product with a dry erase board, but it's a place that you can start, right? Take away that frustration of, oh, I've rubbed so hard on this paper that there is a hole in it now. And there's a lot of other tools out there as well that are very, very mistake tolerant. Tools like Book Creator, where I can go in and I can make changes to what I'm doing. Tools like Padlet, again, where I've got lots of options for different input. And so I've got that ability to choose the resources that are going to best meet my need, the way I'm inputting in, and then I can fix something that if I haven't. So if I can upload a photo, that I can write or draw something, I can have a video, I can put notes down or add links. Those are all things that are going to make this more mistake tolerant, that I can customize as the learner. I can customize what I'm doing.
I like the idea, Beth, of a dry erase board and reminding people that, yes, you have these in your room. They are tools in your space, but what are they? It is a mistake tolerant instructional tool. And giving people that moment to kind of look at something like a dry erase marker board with a different set of eyes, or just a different approach to it. Like, oh, wait a second. That can be so much more than just that thing over there that I wouldn't think of as a flexible instructional tool. And yet that's exactly what it is. And it's really important sometimes to point that to people and remind them that, look at these things through a different lens. Think about these tools you have differently. You have tons of things in your room already that can be used for this. So I love that. I love the low tech of the dry erase board there. Some of the other things we talk about, and we think about, again, we're talking about solutions that are cutting across the boundaries of our content areas. And we touched on this a little bit before, but thinking about your visual presentation of information and providing options for flexibility, whether that is font choice, font size, colors, contrast, spacing, magnification, all of those things that we can give learners options so that works best for them. I know when we open up a Google Doc, what is it? It's 11-point font. If Karen was here, she would have just gone off on a 5-minute tangent about 11-point font. Makes her just really angry for some reason. But I love that. I think it's great. 11-point font might work for some people, might not for others. Have we provided instruction on how to change that? If that doesn't work for you, here's how you change it. Here's how you can make that font different. You can make it work for you. Looking at digging into the features of the tools we use, whether it's Google Docs or whether we're using Microsoft Word, or if we're using anything else, Book Creator, another great example of a tool. You'll see Book Creator a lot in these webinars of ours because it's such a flexible tool that provides all these options for learners. But thinking about how we can do this and what works best for each individual, not this idea of I've provided it in Times New Roman 12-point font and that's what everybody gets. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody. Personally, I don't like Times New Roman. So if I see that, I try to change it instantly to something that I prefer because it's easier for me to move through. And we have to show each person how to make those flexible choices for themselves. So think about that as you're offering materials to a learner. Have I given them that material in a platform that has flexibility? How might they change that to work best for them? I like not driving the slides. This is fun. I can just sit here. It's
I'm gonna have to
awesome.
give it back to you in a minute, though. I know, so it's all right.
No, that's you can keep it. It's fine. It's great. Oh yeah, you will give it back to me. I thought about what slide you're talking about. Yeah, that's okay. The other thing, and Beth mentioned before the idea of captions. And while many of our tools now have this flexibility of the things we've already been talking about, one of the things we see in a lot of our tools now is this idea of flexibility for captioning. Are you using it? This is one of those moments where, and like Beth said before, Zoom, it just automatically starts now. I don't have to go turn it on and dig it out. It just starts. And then I can choose to turn it off or leave it on. Are you using that in presentations, in materials that you're showing? Whether it's Google Slides or PowerPoint, whatever it might be, if you're using a Microsoft like a PC, are you using the live captions in the PC? That is the picture on the slide there with the little box that's floating above the material. That is the live captions in Microsoft right there. Thinking about providing that option of captions all the time, not saying, does anyone need captions and waiting for somebody to raise their hand, but instead offering them as an option. And what you'll find is that more times than not, someone will benefit from that in the space. They will want that. They will find that to be a powerful addition to their learning in the space. And again, it's in everything now. So this is not something we have to go out and find. It's not something you have to go purchase. This is built into just about all of our tools now. As you're presenting materials, maybe a YouTube video or things like that, turn the captions on automatically. Just turn them on. So that as it starts, they're there.
Yeah, think about the impact that this is going to have, not just for somebody who may have difficulty hearing, but for your multilingual learners. So it's going to provide clarification of what a word is that you've said. It lingers longer on the screen. Our voice comes and goes very quickly. But even with text, even with captions that are moving, it's going to linger longer. So for that student who dropped attention for a moment or was distracted by something, they can look and see what it was that you said. So captions can be really, really powerful. And when, again, they are just the default in what you do, your learners are going to benefit from that.
Excellent.
All right, I'm gonna give you back.
All right.
Screen control.
Perfect. Let me share again. Let me find that slide. Here we are. So this is the slide we're on right now. One of the other things we can do is when we are using images in our materials, are we providing alt text or image descriptions for those materials? And why would we do that? And there's a component of this that people may say, well, you do this for students who are visually impaired or blind. Sure. Okay. We can do that. So for someone who's unable to see that visual characteristic of what we're sharing, sure. I would go one step further and say, this has value for many of the individuals we're working with. It gives us an opportunity to provide them extra context to why are we using the image we're using. One of my favorite stories, and it's about this picture, and this always makes me laugh. That's why I chose it in the slide, working with a student. And the image is a Bitmoji of me holding a magic 8-ball. Now, there was a component of this. The student didn't even know what a magic 8-ball was. So we had to have that conversation too. So, all right, the image was not ideal, but it made me smile. So we went with it and we went the explanation. But the other thing is that the student I was working with became fixated on why was the picture of me wearing a gray shirt. And I had to keep explaining the gray shirt doesn't really matter. It could be a red shirt or a blue shirt. It doesn't matter. The key piece of this picture is that that person is holding this item that says yes on it. And so we added that to the alt text. So as that learner was using these materials, that alt text would appear as they rolled over it. They could get that extra support. This is a feature built into all of our tools now, the ability to add alt text. If you're using social media and you're posting images, alt text is an option. Are you using it? If not, you should be. It's a good habit to get into, this ability of providing accessibility, a simple step in order to do that. And so here I am in the slide creation mode. If I go to any picture on this slide and right click on the picture, I get an option for, sorry, I clicked twice. There you go. There's my menu pops up, and one of my options is alt text. Over here on the right-hand side, it popped up. Here is the alt text description of that image. So I can start adding those pieces in so someone could get the key piece of why that image is in this slide. The other thing that you're seeing more and more on our tools, now this is Google Slides, you could do this in PowerPoint or anything else. Many of our tools now have an AI component to this, to where AI will generate the alt text for you. And so, for everyone who's ever said to me, I don't know what to write and how am I going to do that, and get very panicked about it. Well, now the alt text says, how about this? And you can simply say yes or no and edit it as you want. And so this idea of adding alt text has become less of an issue, less of a stumbling block. But what you're doing here is providing yet another layer of accessibility to your materials, both for individuals who might need that as far as a visual support, and anyone else who might need that context understanding of why we're doing this. And so this is one of those, I call this one of our simple little things we can do. This is a simple little accessibility thing we can all do to make the materials that we're using and creating that much more rich for everyone we're working with.
And I was just going to add, Mike, for all of those educators out there that are using Canva, because I think that has become an increasingly popular tool, Canva is one of those tools that has AI supporting the alt text. So when you click to add alt text, it will have a little button you can push that will say, suggest for me. And see what it comes up with. You may need to edit it, but see what it comes up with. It's trying to make things easier. It's trying to help you make it more of a default in always having alt text.
Simple solutions that we can do. So as we start to kind of come to the end of this this webinar, what are some things you can do? You might see these in the other ones as well, like little now what kind of moments for you. Like, okay, how are you going to do this? How are you going to change what happens in your school? Think about this. The areas we talked about today are, like we said in the beginning, kind of more of a global idea of accessibility and inclusive design. So how can you be that voice on a tech committee? One of my favorite stories is just showing up to a tech committee in a school. I was not invited. I just showed up and asked a lot of questions, was actively interested in what they were talking about, got into as part of the group. And then they said, well, what do you do here? And then I got to tell them what I do, and then kind of infiltrated from there, and gave them some ideas of accessibility and how we can use that. But see what your tech committees are talking about. Understand or ask around, how is purchasing happening in your school? And are there opportunities to have discussions with the people that are tasked with that job about thinking about accessibility, or sharing the checklist with them? Like, here's some things to think about. You could share that as a way of, I'm hoping to make your job easier, their purchasing committee, and here's some things you can look at as you go forward. And so those can be simple ways you can make some change in your school. Another
simple thing to do is, if you are a person that gets to present to other educators, whether it's in your school or in your district or elsewhere, model some of these things. Model always putting captions on and saying, hey, did you know how easy it is to put captions on? Model that your resources that you have created, the slide decks, the whatever it is that you've created, that they showcase diversity, that every single person in the room can see themselves somewhere in the resources that you are. Model that for them, because if you are doing it consistently in front of other people, it may help them consider, oh, I could be doing this too.
As we said, there's 9 parts of this. We don't know how many you've seen so far. Maybe this is the last one. I don't know if this was the last one. I hope the others were good. If this was the first one you're watching, I'd say go back and watch the inclusive mindset and then dig through the other ones as well. But each of the sections of our book, these are the sections of our book. And each of these webinars will be one of those sections. So you can get similar setup to what you saw today with some examples of some strategies and some tools and how to use that. We would encourage you, share this with others that you work with, share this with your colleagues, and start this process of finding ways to be more inclusive in the design of the materials you're using for your instruction.
And I didn't even have to remind you, Chris. Mike is going back to, almost called you Chris. Mike is going back to the first slide so that if you didn't catch the slide deck, the QR code for the slide deck, it's right there. There's lots of valuable links in there and resources for you to be able to share with others.
Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you watching all the way through, and we look forward to seeing you in some 2-person
combination of the 4 of us.
That's right, in the future. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Are you a New Jersey educator looking for support or professional development tailored to your district's AT needs? We offer free, customized training and coaching for NJ teachers, paraprofessionals, and families. From hands-on workshops to individual classroom support and small group facilitation, we're here to help. Visit us at atcenter.tcnj.edu to learn more. Have a question? Contact us at atcenter@tcnj.edu. Please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content on all things assistive technology.